Issei Sagawa's crime is one of the most chilling and disturbing in modern history. A murder and act of cannibalism so brazen, so unfathomable, it still haunts all who hear it. The story begins in Paris, a city known for its beauty and romance, but on that night, it became the backdrop for an unthinkable horror. After killing René Hardevelt, a fellow student he had invited to dinner, Sagawa didn't run or hide. Instead, he lingered in the apartment, surrounded by the silence and the aftermath of his crime. He took photographs, meticulously documenting every step of what he had done, as if creating a twisted diary. Each image was a record, a way to relive the moment again and again. This was no crime of passion, no sudden loss of control. It was premeditated, planned down to the smallest detail. It was a calculated, deliberate act, one he wanted to remember and in his own way, share with the world. Sagawa even wrote about his fantasies before the crime, leaving behind a chilling paper trail. The most shocking part? Sagawa never spent a single day in prison for his crime. Despite the brutality, he was declared legally insane in France and sent to a mental institution. Thanks to a bizarre loophole in international law and a series of legal missteps, he confessed, yet walked free. When he was deported to Japan, authorities there found themselves powerless to prosecute him further. Back in Japan, Sagawa became a minor celebrity, writing books, giving interviews, and even appearing in films, all centered around his gruesome act. He profited from his notoriety, turning infamy into a career. Sagawa spoke openly, describing his motives with chilling detachment, as if discussing a scientific experiment rather than a human life. He showed no remorse, only a cold curiosity. He claimed he wanted to absorb René's beauty and vitality through cannibalism, a fantasy he'd harbored for years, one that had consumed his thoughts long before he acted on it. The world watched, horrified and transfixed, as a confessed killer slipped through the cracks of justice. His story splashed across headlines and television screens. This story isn't just about who did it, but why, and how he managed to get away with it, leaving so many questions unanswered and so many people unsettled. The case of Issei Sagawa forces us to confront the darkest corners of human nature, and to ask ourselves, what happens when justice fails, and evil walks free among us? Who was Issei Sagawa before Paris? What shaped the man who would later become infamous around the world? Born in Kobe, Japan in 1949, Issei was a frail, sickly child, often confined indoors by illness. He was small for his age, and the world seemed to tower over him, leaving him feeling insignificant and powerless. His family was wealthy and powerful, his father a prominent businessman, but privilege couldn't buy him confidence or acceptance among his peers. Despite the comforts of his home, Issei felt isolated, a stranger in his own skin. Issei retreated into books and dark fantasies, spending hours alone, his imagination running wild. He became obsessed with stories of power and dominance, feeling like an outsider in every room he entered. As a university student, his obsessions grew more intense. He fixated on tall, healthy Western women, seeing in them everything he was not: strength, confidence, and freedom. His fantasies, once private, began to turn predatory and dangerous. He even broke into a woman's apartment, intent on cannibalism, but fled in panic when discovered. This was not a one-time impulse, but a sign of a growing compulsion he could no longer control. His father's influence and wealth kept him out of legal trouble, shielding him from consequences and emboldening him further. The boundaries between fantasy and reality blurred. Outwardly, he was quiet, intelligent, and unassuming, a model student. But inside, a monstrous desire was growing, hidden beneath a mask of normalcy. He earned a master's in English literature, impressing professors and classmates alike. Yet his true education was in secrecy, obsession, and the darkness he nursed alone. The stage was set for tragedy, one that would unfold far from home in a city that promised anonymity and new opportunities. Sagawa's path to infamy was paved long before he set foot in Paris. The seeds of horror had already taken root, waiting for the right moment to bloom. In 1981, Issei Sagawa moved to Paris to study at the prestigious Sorbonne University, a dream destination for countless aspiring scholars. For most, Paris is a city of inspiration, romance, and endless possibility. But for Sagawa, it became something far more sinister, a hunting ground, where his darkest desires could hide in plain sight. The city's vibrant streets were filled with the women who populated his most disturbing fantasies, each one a reminder of the obsession that consumed him. At just 4'11", Sagawa was almost invisible, easily blending into the bustling crowds. He wandered the boulevards and narrow alleys, free to observe, to plan, and to wait for the right moment. It was here that he met Renee Hartevelt, a bright, kind Dutch student. She was everything he admired: intelligent, compassionate, and full of life. To Sagawa, she embodied everything he both longed for and coveted. Under the guise of academic collaboration, he befriended her, inviting her to his small apartment for dinners and late-night study sessions. Their friendship seemed genuine, built on shared interests and intellectual curiosity. Renee saw only a lonely classmate, someone who needed a friend in a foreign city. She had no idea of the darkness lurking beneath his quiet demeanor. Their conversations seemed perfectly normal, discussing poetry, coursework, and the excitement of life in Paris. To anyone watching, they were just two students enjoying each other's company. Sagawa was patient, methodically gaining her trust, always careful to keep his true intentions hidden behind a mask of politeness and reserve. To Renee, he was just Issei, the quiet, unassuming student who seemed harmless, even endearing in his shyness. She could never have imagined the horror he was planning, or the danger that was slowly closing in around her. The city of light, so full of beauty and promise, was about to witness an act of pure darkness, one that would shock the world. Sagawa's mask of normalcy hid a predator waiting for the perfect moment. The trap was set, and the city would never be the same. June 11, 1981. Sagawa invited Renee to his apartment, asking for help with a German poem. She arrived, expecting a quiet evening of study and dinner. As she read poetry aloud, Sagawa retrieved a rifle he'd bought for this moment. He shot her in the neck. Her life ended instantly. The academic pretense vanished, replaced by horror. Sagawa later described feeling both panic and exhilaration. He fainted, but upon waking, felt a chilling sense of purpose. He began the gruesome task he'd fantasized about for years. Methodically, he dismembered her body, selecting parts with disturbing care. This was not a frenzied attack, but a cold, calculated ritual. The apartment became a scene of unimaginable horror. Sagawa's fantasy had become a grim reality. The world would soon learn of the darkness that unfolded behind closed doors. What followed was even more disturbing. Sagawa documented everything. He took dozens of photographs, posing with the remains, creating a macabre album. He made audio recordings, narrating his thoughts as he ate parts of Renee's body. He described the taste, believing he was absorbing her beauty and strength. For 2 days, he treated the act as a gourmet experience, writing later about his preferences. The world outside was oblivious to the horror inside his apartment. The documentation was part of his ritual, both perpetrator and observer, creating a legacy of his crime. These records would become irrefutable evidence. Sagawa wasn't just committing a crime, he was immortalizing it. Eventually, reality set in. Sagawa had to dispose of the remains. He packed Renee's body into 2 suitcases, planning to dump them in a Paris park. A taxi driver, suspicious of the heavy luggage, refused to help, so Sagawa abandoned the suitcases and fled. A passerby noticed the leaking bags. Police soon discovered the horror inside. Paris was shocked. A city of beauty, now the scene of medieval brutality. The press dubbed him the Cannibal of Paris, and a manhunt began. The taxi driver's tip and store records led police straight to Sagawa. He confessed calmly, eager to share details. Police found more remains, the camera, and audio tapes in his apartment. The evidence was overwhelming. The story exploded worldwide. How could a privileged student commit such a barbaric act? The world was both horrified and fascinated by the man who documented his own cannibalism. With a confession and overwhelming evidence, justice seemed certain. Sagawa was charged with murder, and the world expected a swift conviction. But his defense argued insanity, and psychiatrists agreed. He was declared unfit for trial. The charges were dropped, and Sagawa was sent to a French mental institution. His stay was brief. His father's influence secured his return to Japan, with the understanding he'd be institutionalized there. But in Japan, the French charges didn't apply, and sealed psychiatric records left authorities powerless. Japanese doctors found him disturbed, but not legally insane or dangerous. After just 15 months, Sagawa was released, a free man. The legal system had failed at every turn. Renee's family was left without justice. Sagawa's freedom was a global outrage. Sagawa's release in 1986 shocked the world. A confessed killer, free to live his life. Instead of hiding, he embraced infamy, becoming a bizarre celebrity in Japan. He wrote a best-selling memoir, gave interviews, and even appeared in adult films. He painted scenes of his crime, commodifying his notoriety. For decades, he lived quietly but notoriously, always willing to recount his story. He claimed to still have cannibalistic fantasies but insisted he'd never act again. As he aged, his health declined. He died in 2022, never having faced true punishment. Sagawa's life was a spectacle, a living reminder of a justice system's failure. He profited from his crime while Renee's family endured endless grief. His death closed a disturbing chapter, but the questions linger. The world was left to grapple with the legacy of a killer who walked free. The Issei Sagawa case leaves us uneasy, questioning the very systems meant to protect us. How could a confessed killer escape justice? The loopholes in international law proved tragic. For Renee's family, there was no closure, only pain, as Sagawa profited from their loss. This story reminds us that behind every headline are real victims and shattered lives. Sagawa was not a monster in the shadows, but a privileged man hiding in plain sight. His case forces us to confront the darkness that can exist within anyone. True crime stories like this challenge our understanding of evil, justice, and human nature. If you want more deep dives into the world's most perplexing cases, subscribe for more stories that make you question everything.